The Vanguard PPSH versus Cold War 1. Which iteration is better? We're going to figure out how similar or different they are by going over the stats. I'll tell you which one is better and give you the best class setup for each weapon. Welcome back. I'm Austin, and jumping straight into it, I normally tell you about the max bullet velocity, but it doesn't matter too much on submachine guns because all your fights are going to happen at close range. And getting to a very important stat, fire rate, which is a huge deal on SMGs, the Vanguard PPSH will be a little bit better with 952 rounds per minute to 904. However, if we add 3 attachments, we can get this Vanguard weapon all the way up to an insane 1,313 rounds per minute. That would easily be the fastest firing weapon in the entire game of Warzone. I wouldn't recommend putting all those attachments on, but it's definitely beneficial to have 1 or 2 of them. The reason we want a faster fire rate is because they're easier to use and missing shots hurts your time to kill less because the next shot gets there faster. Let's switch over to see how much damage these weapons do, and the Cold War PPSH will be better when it comes to average damage at close range with 27 compared to 25.5. The Cold War one has to do slightly more damage because of its slightly slower fire rate on the base weapon. Vanguard weapons love to be different by having 3 damage ranges while 99.9% of Cold War and Modern Warfare weapons only have 2. The Vanguard PPSH's second range is only from 11 to 14 meters, making it basically useless, and it has an average damage of 22.25, while the Cold War one will still have 27. And finally, at long range, the story holds true with 25 to 18.5, and the Vanguard PPSH just has an atrocious damage at long range. Just don't use it out there, or you'll be having a bad time. Now, if we take a look at a full damage breakdown, we're going to be looking at head, chest, stomach, and limb damage. We can see that these weapons have a little bit of a different damage profile, where the Vanguard PPSH will have a slightly better headshot multiplier, but it has less consistent damage than the Cold War variant, and making it require much better accuracy to get its good time to kills. The Cold War PP has a good Warzone damage profile, and at the second range for the Vanguard one, it's going to be the same breakdown, but the Cold War one will have a big advantage where it still has the same damage profile because of its greater range. And quickly going over the third damage, we can see the same story again. The Cold War PPSH will feel more consistent with its damage at any given range. Before moving to close range time to kill, let's hit that like button and jump right back into the most likely TTK close range, which is going to go to the Cold War PPSH with 595 milliseconds to 630. This is because it takes 1 less shot to kill with 10 to 11. However, if we throw in the recoil booster for the Vanguard one, it'll actually bring the TTK down to 590 milliseconds, making it slightly better. And that's because the recoil booster only increases the fire rate by 7%, while it doesn't affect the damage at all, so just a straight boost to the time to kill. And for the rest of the video, I'm going to be using stats for the Vanguard PPSH with the recoil booster attachment. It makes for a much better weapon comparison, and the Cold War PPSH will require 7 chest or stomach shots for this time to kill. Super easy to do at close range, and the other one will require you to do one of these 3 things to get the time to kill: 9 stomach shots, 6 chest shots, or 3 headshots. The Vanguard weapons are an absolute pain to explain with their less than ideal damage profiles, but the good news is that's super easy to accomplish at close range. Both these weapons need a ridiculous amount of headshots to lower their time to kills, 4 and 3 respectively. All that means is it's pointless to go for headshots and will only make them perform worse. The Cold War PPSH is going to feel super consistent with its TTK because of its consistent damage output. And before we switch to long range time to kill, let's actually talk about the range of these weapons. The Cold War one will have a much better range with 17.5 meters to 11. Then if you guys remember, we do have that mid and long range time to kill on the Vanguard PPSH, where its secondary range will only be 14 meters. We're going to be looking at their long range time to kills next because fighting in those 3 meters isn't going to happen super frequently. The Cold War PPSH will have the better time to kill by a decent margin with 660 milliseconds to 884, and that's with the recoil booster on the Vanguard one. So the Cold War PPSH has this better time to kill because it takes 5 less shots to kill at long range with 11 to 16. This is a huge advantage. There's a reason the Cold War PPSH was a top sniper support option back in Verdansk. You need 7 chest or stomach shots with the Cold War one to get this TTK, and this isn't hard to accomplish, making it still viable to use past 17.5 meters. The bad news on both PPSHs is that you're going to need too many headshots to be viable to reduce their time to kills. The Vanguard one needs 3 and the Cold War one will need you to get 2. Those are plausible to get, but it will make you miss more shots and isn't worth going for. The Vanguard PP is much better suited for close range combat, while the Cold War one will be more versatile. We have to talk about the recoil and how it affects their time to kill. The slower the fire rate, the more guns are affected by missing shots, and you can tell that just from the time to kill drop off by adding 1 more bullet to kill. With the Cold War PPSH, PPSH, it'll add 66 milliseconds to its TTK, while the Vanguard one with the recoil booster will only add 59 milliseconds, making it 7 milliseconds more forgiving. That is a super small difference, making it not that big of a deal, but still an advantage I wanted to let you guys know. The good news is that neither weapon is hard to aim with my builds. I can comfortably aim the Cold War one out to farther ranges while still having a much better TTK past 11 meters. The Vanguard PPSH is much better suited to build out as a great close quarters SMG, while the Cold War one is a much better built out to be versatile from close to mid range. Taking a look at damage per mag, the Cold War PPSH will come out ahead at close range with 1917 to 1811. Both of them have a 71 round drum mag, and this stat is more important the bigger the mode, making it the most influential within quads, making them perfect for any size game mode with their giant clips. Switching over to close range damage per second, the Vanguard PPSH with the recoil booster will be better with 423 DPS to 392. Vanguard weapons base stats are trash, but once you stack on these attachments, they get much better, and that's how they're trying to balance out them having 10 attachments. As you can see, the recoil booster doesn't lower damage but increases fire rate, meaning it just straight up lowers the time to kill, making it better, as well as increasing damage output. Kind of a busted attachment if you ask me, and you can't do this with Cold War or Modern Warfare attachments because none of them affect fire rate or damage, so they don't affect time to kill or damage per second, but with Vanguard weapons, they change drastically by adding 1 or 2 important attachments. If you don't build these Vanguard weapons out correctly, it's super detrimental. Finally, moving on over to the movement stats, the Cold War PPSH is going to be better across the board with ADS, movement, and strafe speed, while they're identical in sprint to fire time. The ADS and ADS movement are key advantages for the Cold War variant because at close range, being able to get on target and move quickly is super important to how the weapon will perform. However, the 10 attachments are super broken on Vanguard weapons still because I can improve the TTK of the Vanguard PPSH while still being able to add 9 more attachments to help its accuracy and movement. And let's just say they still have a lot of work to do balancing these weapons. Make sure to subscribe if you found this video through YouTube search, and I think we both know you did. That way you can get notified when more Warzone stats videos are released, and I've given you the information and it's time for my verdict on which weapon is better. The PPSH. I should probably tell you which one because that isn't very straightforward. The Cold War PPSH is much better on Caldera currently because of its superior range and movement. On this map you get into way more engagements that aren't super close range, and that's where the Vanguard one will perform a little bit better, while the Cold War PPSH has some of the best range of any SMG and still has a competitive time to kill after its damage drop off. It performs amazingly on Caldera. With Vanguard one, you have to build it out to be as good as possible at close range. It felt great in buildings and cities, but could struggle slightly when you're in jungly areas. The Cold War PPSH being more versatile is what made it the clear-cut winner. We're going to start with the Vanguard PPSH build. We got the recoil booster to get the fire rate up to 1017, and then we got these 2 attachments geared towards accuracy and range with the ZAC 300mm barrel and the hand stop underbarrel. Now we're going to move over to the optic, which is going to be actually iron sights because we're only using this out to about 12 meters. We don't need an optic to help us aim, and this will increase our aim down sight speed. Now remove stock and fabric grip are going to be the same exact thing for what they improve, with hip fire accuracy, movement speed, and sprint to fire, and those 2 things are super key on an SMG, so that's why I love those 2 paired together. Now with fleet, we're going to actually increase movement speed as well as weapon swap quickness, meaning we don't have to use amped and can use something like combat scout. And now, if we go to perk 2, we have quick for sprint speed. This SMG is going to be flying around. I know the movement stats were a little bit worse, but when you add all these things together, it's actually going to be one of the fastest moving SMGs in the game. Now we got 2 attachments left. The magazine, you got this 271 round drums. Now the 8mm one increases fire rate and lowers damage, and it ruins the damage for mag, and I personally hate this magazine, so I would use the Gorenko 71 round mag for sure because the TTK is actually better on this one than the 8mm. And now for the last thing for ammunition, we can use Incendiary or Hollow Point. I personally like Incendiary because I put on Fleet so I can get rid of Amped and use Combat Scout. And what Incendiary does is it's actually going to take away health for 750 milliseconds, which means you're going to have them highlighted 750 milliseconds longer, as well as getting a better TTK. This is your optimal close quarters PPSH. For the weapon I recommended, the Cold War PPSH, I actually altered the sniper support version of it, as you can tell from the upper left corner of the screen, where I'm trying to build this for range and up close because of the type of engagements you get on this map. And the Groove Suppressor will give us the effective damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control, while the Microflex LED will allow us to aim out to 25 meters more effectively. And now the Spetsnaz PKM stock is going to give us ADS movement speed and strafe speed, which is going to allow us to move a lot faster in close quarters. 71 round drum for the damage per mag, then we got the Bruiser Grip for 3% movement speed and hip fire accuracy. And this gun is going to be great up close and great at mid range, so I really recommend using it. And if you want to know what long range weapon to pair with this, I got a video linked on screen right here.